Me 12 to 13-year-old. Innawoods away from roads and homes with 5 other friends. La 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 digging out our secret base. 2 of us taking turns clambering around in trees keeping watch. Getting towards sunset. Suddenly there's something shining in that bush. It's gone. Everybody hurls themselves into the hole we dug. Nothing but 2 shovels and a couple of pen knives for protection. Hear a noise like a file being rasped across a piece of wood. Mandatory special kid starts weeping and pissing. Getting darker. We decide to run, it can't get all of us. Count of 5, we will run. Everybody but special kid starts running at 3. Run till we reach nearest road turn and wait for sounds of pursuit / grisly dismemberment. Special kid bursts out of bushes weeping and shitting. Sees lost a shoe. Screams he saw a black shape right behind him. Start running up road fast as we can. Safety of home. Build up courage to return to where we part of road where we came out of the woods a few days later. Find kid's shoe sitting at edge of road. Never go into the woods on that side of the town again. Be baby Crito. Only the size of a Rottweiler. All the animals run from me. Sad times. Maybe these strange bipedal will play with me. Watching them from the bushes. Be really nervous. Try to call out. Rah 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 rah. Can't even get out my greeting. Hear them whisper something, maybe they're understood anyway. See all but one take off away from me. Wonder why they're leaving and follow the last one, he seemed kind of weird. Looses his shoe and is making funny noises.
I met this one guy about 8 years ago. We would hike together and camp maybe once a year. We decided to take a trip to the mountains to backpack and camp. We went out for a couple days and got some peaks in. He was always very normal, your average guy. Never any weird behavior. Anyways, one of the last days we were there we did some bouldering. He missed his hold and fell on his wrist crap. We had to go to the hospital because it was getting huge. Go to ER and he is losing consciousness from pain. He knows this and is desperately telling me not to come in with him to the room. He says this over and over until he faints and I catch him. The nurse rushes over and tells me to help her get him to the room ASAP. I go with her without thinking. They take him to get x-rayed eventually and this is where it gets spooky. The x-ray tech has me hold his arm on the table while she went back and took the x-ray. In the waiting room the tech comes out with a weird distant stare on her face. Sir, how do you know this man? I have some disturbing news. The hair stands up on my arms, WTF. She takes me back to the room with the lighted board and puts up the x-ray. Sir, you need to see this and you need to get out of here. I recommend erasing any traces you have with this man. She puts the x-ray onto the board. Hits the light. MFW this whole time, he was a spooky skeleton underneath all that skin. I only hike alone now.
I've also got another one that was yet to be told. I know /K/ wants to hear. Both my brothers back from Chair Force. They both joined a force while I went into private security. Showing off my Jeep to bros and wanna give them a scare too. Take them to Constitution Drive in Allentown. 2 a.m. slowly pull up to Constitution Drive, have a plan to scare them good. Halfway down the road we reach a gate, make them get out and open it for me. They get out and start walking to the gate and I turn the Jeep off along with the lights pretending something went wrong. Both run back to Jeep flipping out. My plan has worked. Turn Jeep back on to continue our trip. Flip my lights on and one, bro points out a set of eyes glowing off just out of reach of my lights. See 4 pairs of glowing eyes each a different height, it isn't a bright green reflection like a normal animal though. Start Jeep crapping a little bit, but also curious. On Constitution Drive it's 1 lane on a dirt/stone road with a 10 feet cliff/hill on one side and a cliff with a 30 feet drop to a river and the road is very narrow in most spots. So it's damn near impossible for something to disappear unless it jumped off the cliff into the river. Roll up to where the eyes were, there is nothing. Start hearing branches snapping from the cliffside, not the riverside. Turn my spotlight there to see what looks like what I can only describe as a panther only much longer and lower to the ground. We slow down to 10 miles per hour and it creeps from the edge of the cliff then out of view over and over again. It seems to absorb the light with 2 of my 100-watt spotlights hitting it. It should be lit up like a freaking Christmas tree. The surrounding area is lit them the hell up but we still can't see it. We flippin' out and haul ass doing 50 miles per hour down the road and this thing is keeping up with us. See eyes again off in the distance as we are hauling towards them. Can't seem to get close to them. Bro in back stands up and starts firing shots off at the thing on the cliff. Bro in front does the same. Eyes are now about 20 feet from us and not moving. I stop and we all start shooting at them and after 6 mags there is nothing. Pull up to where the shots were hitting. Lights shine on something wet looking on the ground. Bro in front gets out and gets some, comes back to Jeep with his hand coated in it. Wasn't a blood looking type of liquid, was more like a wet putty / slime and reacted like cornstarch and water and was a very dark purple. We got the heck out of there in the other direction and don't really talk about it much.
Yeah, like others have already stated, the Mothman is not necessarily a bad omen for yourself. At the sites of major structural failures, or terrorist actions, i.e. those numbers you dialed sometime in September of 2001, people have reported seeing the Mothman. The people who reported seeing the Mothman were people observing, not likely directly linked with the catastrophes. Like the collapse of the Silver Bridge. If you seek more knowledge, you should journey to Point Pleasant. Ask around for the site of the old abandoned TNT factory. You will not be disappointed. I've had experiences as well, that I'm willing to share. Alright. I'll share my experience with the creature. The year was 1996. Sometime in November, I believe. I was out in the area visiting my folks that recently moved to a small town outside of Point Pleasant, named Mason. General crappy hick town, only about 1,000 people living in it, whatever. I was always interested in the Mothman, because my father always told my stories of the Silver Bridge collapse, because he was in the area as it happened. I've been exposed to the Mothman a lot from my dad, who is also a believer. Well, needless to say, I wanted to venture to the infamous TNT factory, to check out all the rumors and to see if they were true. Not too far of a drive, you simply follow Route 62 for a couple of miles, then turn left onto Camp Conley RD, then finally a left onto Tritt Road. It would be on your right. Damn man, this place was creepy. It was worth the drive though. It was the dead of night, almost around 12 at the time. It gets dark around 6 in the fall anyway, so basically pitch black. Pulling my car over to the side of the road, I got my flashlight and headed over to the abandoned structures. They looked almost like igloos. Dirt igloos is the best I could describe them. But damn, this place gave me the chills. No noise, no. Nothing. It seemed eerily quiet. Almost dead. I'm usually a calm person, but this crap freaked me out after a while. I started to hear strange noises in the tree and limbs snapping, and beating that almost sounded like the beating of wings of a very large bird. Owl, maybe, I thought, but I didn't effing stay around to check it out. I ran myself back to the car, and simply sat there and waited. I was waiting for about 10 minutes, the longest 10 minutes of my life. Then I saw something that made my blood chill. A pair of effing red eyes staring at me through the canopy of trees, right out past a small pond. I sat there, unable to move. This creature was looking at me, not the car, not anything else, just me. Eyes were gone. Good, I thought, I scared it away. I kept driving, intent on returning to my parents' house. I was driving at a decent pace, about 40 to 50 miles an hour. I didn't want to get stopped by the a-hole cops in the area, and they'd definitely be around. I continued on for about 20 minutes, it was quiet. Man, I wanted to get home. I was starting to get freaked again by what I saw. Was it the Mothman? Was it some type of bird? I didn't know. But, to my horror, I peered out the window to my left, and I saw those eyes. And the outline of wings, the freaking thing was following me. I was never more scared in my life. I stepped on that pedal, but at the time, my car was crap a beater. The thing only hit about 80. The creature didn't miss a beat. Even up to the speed of 80, it still intently followed me. No noise, but I could hear the flapping of wings. It was loud enough to hear over the roaring of my engine. I nearly crashed a few times, trying to make my way back home. The chase continued for about 15 more minutes, but making the turn back onto Route 62, I was going too fast and spun out on the road. I thought I crashed for a moment, as everything was hazy. But then in front of me, a mere foot away from the hood, I saw it good. I could only describe it as being eerily close to the ops picture. Almost exact. It was just standing there. Throwing the car into reverse, I effing hauled out of there, braking speeds over 90. Didn't give chase again, and nothing more happened to me that night. Pulled into town, pulled into my house, and freaking stayed up all night for about 2 days, too scared to go to sleep. I began to look out the window every couple of minutes, and having weird delusions that the creature was there and staring back at me. A mixture of paranoia and sleep deprivation, I think. Told my folks I was returning home, and did. Returned back to my home in Ohio. I did some research on the Mothman. I was becoming obsessed with it. I had the paper from my time down in Mason, and the same night I had the encounter with the creature, a house burned down in one of the neighboring townships, killing a family of 5. Mere coincidence, or the Mothman? I did see the Mothman that night, and don't be fooled. It is negative, it is bad. Bad things only follow it. Don't go out looking for it like I did. Not worth it. It does exist, take it from an old guy like me.
I can Greentext the entire experience, and it was scary being chased by redneck with assault rifles. They were shooting at me and chased me for about 10 miles. It was unprovoked too. I wanted to do a stalker challenge with my AK-47 and camp out for a week. Camping in Wisconsin on national forest land. Doing a semi-stalker challenge. Want to spend a week. Do a little varmint hunting and fishing. Build a shelter and stay for a week. Take AK-47W/330 round mags and 140 round. Also take Browning high power W/213 round mags. In my pack is a Henry AR-7 for small game. 100 rounds of ammo. Trek for 12 miles before camp next to a stream. Spend the first day getting to know the area. Find a small lake. Next day I go check out the lake some more and see tents, trucks, and people on the other side. Channel my inner stalker and observe from about 100 yards away from their camp. Take notes of faces and routines. Go back to camp and decide not to set up my tent in case I have to bug out. Build my shelter and even dug out a foxhole for added space for the shelter. I go out and hunt for rabbits and squirrels. Bag 2 squirrels. I am at camp and just got done eating and cleaning up when I hear voices. GTFO. Fall back to a hill not far from my camp. Can hear, I heard the gunshots over here. 6 guys in camo show up. Route around my camp. Someone was just here. Coals are still hot. They process to destroy my shelter. One guy hangs up a note on a tree. They leave. I spend the rest of the day on the hill in case they are watching. Distant between my camp and there is 2 miles. Go around and do a wide circle checking for a lookout. Gone. Note reads, "Don't screw with us or we'll kill you." I thought about just leaving right then and there, but /K/ would call me a pussy. No, I must go full stalker. Day 4. So I relocate myself 3 miles away from their camp in a cedar thicket on the edge of a bog. The way to their camp and mine is just a easy walk following a hill on a deer trail. I reach the outskirts of the militia camp. Spend the morning staying out of sight but in earshot. The talk of the town is they destroyed some vagrants' camp. Some of the guys think they should do patrols and try and find the vagrant. They don't want me to screwing with them, but they can screw with me. Okay, game on, mother lovers. After gathering more intelligence, I scout locations for a little fun. They want to test their militia skills, wish granted. Around 9 p.m. that night, quarter of a mile from their camp, fire off 5 rounds from my AK into the air. Flashlights everywhere. Whole campin' on high alert. Run away giggling like a retard back to camp. They spend the better part of 3 hours trying to find me before. Around 3 a.m. day 5. Fire off 5 more shots, this time on the other side of the camp. This time they had sentries posted. I am only carrying my AK. I can sprint like a rabbit. This time I hear gunshots. Lots of gunshots. Oh. They are firing at me. Alright, this is getting too dangerous. Run back to my camp and hunker down. 10 a.m., day 5. Off back to their camp. After a little breakfast of baked beans and check the camp one last time. Militia is on DEFCON 1. Roaming patrols. Foxholes every 1/8 of a mile. One last job, one last prank. I let them be on edge for the day while I slept and got well rested for my final surprise attack. I understand fully how it feels to be Viet Cong, simple person by day, warrior by night. So it's dusk on my 6th day. Militia is poop maxing bricks thinking they are being stalked by a nutjob with a rifle. I am packed up and ready to make my final escape, but not before screwing with these guys one last time. I stash my gear on the logging trail that they used to get to their camp. I go into where some of their vehicles are parked. Amazingly, they are unprotected. Go to vehicle after vehicle and deflate the driver's side front tire. As one final screw you, I put the same note they left for me on the windshield wiper of one of the trucks. I run off back to my stuff and leave. Later that day I am at a gas station fueling up for my return home. Several cars pull up. Some guys in camo, others in regular cloths. All with spares on their cars and filling the air of their tires. I laugh all the way home. Best camping trip ever.
Even though the old man told me to stop for nothing on that road while it's dark, it was natural for me to turn around and go back to help after passing 2 bodies lying in the middle of the road. I knew I should have listened when the 2 bodies stood up and another 20 hillbillies poured out from the pitch black banks on the side of the road to surround me. A guy I know had something similar happen. He was in Haiti with his sister and her hubby. Driving along the road, they see a car with suitcases and clothes and stuff all over the floor. 2 people lying face down. His sister wants to look, the guys think screw that and carry on driving. Look back, they see people coming out of the tall grass. The 2 on the ground get up. This freaked me the hell out when I heard this for the first time. Think it was on an old forum or some crap. I was driving through the mountains once to visit a family member. It was a 2-lane highway that went around a bunch of turns. I did a 45-degree turn, very freaking sharp turn, pretty dangerous, and had to immediately slam on my brakes. It looked like a pileup had happened in the middle of the road, maybe 5 to 6 cars. There were 2 things that scared me, though. 1, that the cars seemed perfectly fine and were still idling, and 2, that there were just bodies on the ground with no marks at all. I ended up weaving through the cars and bodies, not easy since it's a 2-lane road, and as soon as I was out, I looked at my rear view mirror. All the bodies had stood up but were still perfectly still, and there were now people coming out from the hillside, running. Needless to say, I drove out of there as fast as I could, and I definitely didn't drive that road on the way back. I'd cool. So, my dad's lived in a few unique places, such as Shreveport, Louisiana, where his family's chimney was struck by lightning, and South Dakota, which is where his first post-college job was. Dad works for engineering company in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, South Dakota. Crap pay. Right around the time he starts seeing my mom, knew each other in HS, never thought about it, got together after HS. Mom is getting dental hygiene degree back in the Cove. Dad's driving from South Dakota. Takes route through the northeast tip of Wyoming. Country road, tall grass on both sides. Dad has Mustang at the time because screw you, he loves cars. Sees stopped car by the edge of the road. Couple trying to wave him down, he starts slowing down a good 50 meters behind them. Suddenly sees people in the tall grass starting to come out. He freaks the hell out and guns it down the road. Looks in rearview mirror and sees about 15 people come out of the grass. I've heard other people tell similar stories like this. Is this a common carjacking technique or cult thing? B1 AM, driving home from work at local cinema. Only about 2 streets from my house. See something in the middle of the road, right under a street light. Brake as I get closer, as I realize it's a man. See that there's another dude also lying face down on the footpath on the right side of the road. Put car into park, open door. As I open door I see the man's arm flinch. Get strange feeling. Close door. Decide to drive around the man in the street, and stop a bit up the road and call for help. Watch as both men casually stand up and I see what looks like hammers in their hands. Nope the hell out of there, drive 2 streets home with my lights off in case they see me, and be scared of helping people on the road ever since. Once I reach the top I am driving north through a canyon with high grass on both sides of the road. Up ahead I see some stuff in the middle of the road. As I approach I slow down to see a red Pontiac Fiero stopped sideways across both lanes, a suitcase open with clothes scattered everywhere and 2 bodies laying face down in the road, a man and a woman. I stop 100 feet or so away and the hair on the back of my neck is standing up. Being a Marine, I reach under the seat and pull out a 9mm pistol and chamber a round. Something seemed very wrong, it looked too perfect as if it were staged. An ambush? Was I being paranoid? Something was just wrong. Getting out of the car seemed unthinkable, it was the horror movie move. As I scanned the road I saw a line I could drive. Past the guy in the road on his left, swerve to the right side of the woman, behind the Fiero and I'd be on the other side. I dropped it into first gear, punched it and drove the line I planned. I passed the back of the Fiero without hitting it or either of the bodies in the road. I continued forward a couple 100 feet and slowed down so I could breathe and let my heart slow down. As I looked up into the rearview mirror I saw that the 2 bodies had gotten up to their knees and 20 or so people emerged from the tall grass on either side of the road by the car and bodies. At that moment my right foot smashed the gas pedal to the floor and did not let up until I had to slow down for the I-40 East on-ramp. I will never know what would have happened to me had I gotten out of the car to check on the bodies or stopped my car closer to them. Somehow I do not think it would have been good. Sometimes real life can be scarier than a movie. To clarify, I joined the USMC when I was out of high school. This happened several years ago while I was on leave. Driving from California to New Mexico. Taking shortcut through Amboy. At the time a satanic hotspot. Be about 5 p.m. Take a pic of the city sign to prove I actually took I-40 to friends. Get back on the road, get to top of mountain. See some stuff in the middle of the road. Slow down, see a red Pontiac stopped sideways across both lanes. Open suitcase with scattered clothes. Man and woman face down in the road. Stop about 100 feet away. Hair on neck standing up. Immediately pull out my 9mm pistol from under my seat and chamber a round. Way too perfect of an accident scene, like when civilians play dead in Iraq to lure soldiers into a suicide bomb radius. Admit I'm being paranoid, but can't bring myself to leave my vehicle. Scan the road, see a line I could drive. Pass the guy's left, swerve to the woman's right, go behind the Pontiac and I'm clear. Drop into first, gun it. Pass the Pontiac without hitting any bodies, roll forward a bit before slowing down so I can stop panicking. Look in my rearview mirror. The 2 bodies are on their knees. 20 or so people emerge from the tall grass on either side of the road. Slam my foot onto the gas and speed down I-40 until I got onto the next on-ramp. Eat up a ton of gas and coolant, Nearly destroyed my Mustang's engine. Stop taking shortcuts to get anywhere. I will never know what would have happened to me had I gotten out of the car to check on the bodies or stopped my car closer to them, and by God, I'm glad I never will. Boyfriend at the time lives 2 hours away in a remote town smaller than the one I live in. He comes to get me on weekends to spend time with him at his place. Road between our towns is super remote, barely any houses along it and has no gas stations in the 2-hour stretch. Boyfriend at the time and he had to pull over to pee. This stretch has no street lights, no gas station, so you're pretty much fucked if you break down. He drove the car to truck pullover part, not sure what they're called, and got out and stood next to my open window facing away from the road so we could keep talking while he did his thing. He got back in the car and I thought I had heard someone call out. Now I watch a lot of spooky movies and something in my brain told me not to just get out of the car and start looking around for this noise. Now the spot we had parked had no houses nearby, we hadn't passed any cars in at least an hour, so it freaked me out a bit. I told my boyfriend what I heard and he fluffed it off saying I was hearing things. He goes to start the car and I hear it louder. It sounds like a woman who's chain smoked her whole life screaming out, "Help me." Boyfriend hears it too, starts the car with the intention of reversing so he could shine the headlights on the area the noise is coming from. I'm half out the window squinting into the darkness trying to spot the person. As the car starts, 5 people stand up from the tall grass and a man yells out, "She asked for help, cunt," and a group of people laughing. They were maybe 10 meters away and started towards the car and I am freaking the hell out. Boyfriend slams car into gear and speeds off while I'm winding up my window as fast as I can. People run onto the road and after the car. 2 out of the 5 people were holding sticks, I think. Could have been bats. Nope, the hell out, call police and they said they'd send someone to check the area. Never stopped to piss along that stretch again.
This happened when I was in college. I lived in East La Vista, the student community at UCSB, notorious for being a party school. It fully lived up to its reputation. I liked to party, but holy shit, these people were off the wall. As such, there were a lot of people who put themselves in dangerous situations, drinking to excess, not being careful, not locking doors, etc. It had a very isolated and insular vibe, and anyone who was hanging around who wasn't college-aged immediately looked out of place and strange. One night after having a few drinks, I came home to my small house where I lived with 2 other girls, probably around 2:30 a.m. We were all serious students. I was probably the least serious, actually, and when we partied it was not your typical UCSB mega-rager. More like a small get-together with friends. We would often have a few people spend the night, sleep on our furniture or in our beds as the case may be. That night my roommates had a few people over who I didn't know. And I saw when I returned home that one of them had opted to sleep on the couch. From the shadow that I saw there, I didn't turn the light so I wouldn't wake anyone up. But as I was passing the couch to enter my bedroom, I noticed that the figure was lying very stiff. He just had this weird energy to him. He was lying down, but it was like he was putting all of his energy into lying as still and rigid as possible. I paused, and the guy quickly jerked his head to face me, without moving his limbs, so quickly that it startled me. I could see his wide open eyes glinting in the dark. Figuring that I'd startled him or that he was drunk or maybe on some kind of stimulant and unable to sleep, I just hurried past into my bedroom and locked the door. The dude made me nervous and I wasn't taking any chances. I fell asleep. At 4:30 a.m. I woke up. There was a strange sound at the door, almost like somebody was drumming their fingers against the wood very quietly. I lay still and listened. There were more quiet sounds like someone scratching the door with their fingers, which got louder and louder until it was clear that he was using both hands and scratching as fast and as hard as possible. It created an extremely loud and intimidating sound that filled me with fear. I got my cell phone and texted my roommate because I was afraid to make a sound. "Your friend is freaking me out. Is he coked out? Can you talk to him? He's banging and scratching on my door." She didn't text me back, probably because she was asleep. I texted my other roommate to the same effect, covering all my bases. Keep in mind that the scratching has been going on at this point for a couple minutes. I have no idea how he could have sustained it. Scratching a wooden door with your fingernails can't feel good. He also grabbed at the knob and jiggled it super forcefully. Because neither of them answered, I decided to call and really wake them up, though I was scared to make a sound. I know it sounds stupid, but there was something seriously horrifying about being teased like this through the door. I knew that he was trying to terrify me. I felt like a little kid, but I could tell this guy was fucked up or something, and maybe the police needed to be called, and I wanted to loop my roommates in since it was one of their friends. The scratching stopped abruptly and I called my roommate, who answered sleepily. "Yo, your friend is messed up, can you please deal with it? Do we need to call the cops? He's seriously scaring me and he was scratching at my bedroom door, really fucking weird." She didn't say anything for several seconds, and when she did speak, her voice had no sleepiness in it at all. "What friend?" she said. "That fuck guy that was sleeping on the couch," I said. She was quiet again. "We didn't have any guys over," she said. "Call the police." My adrenaline surged and I told her to please lock the bedroom door as quickly as possible. I realized that I hadn't heard scratching in a while and I had no clue where the dude had gone. Suddenly I heard a loud banging in the other end of the house, where my roommates, Lauren and Monica, shared a bedroom. The bangs were followed by the sound of them screaming in fear. I quickly dialed the police as this maniac proceeded to bang against the, luckily, locked bedroom door of my two roommates as they screamed. The heaviness of the blows left no doubt that he was trying to break the door down. I'd told the 911 operator the situation and she'd dispatched 2 squad cars. The police in East La Vista are generally used to peeling drunks off the sidewalk and breaking up brawling frat brothers. This was really serious and strange, and I think the dispatcher got the sense from my tone how terrified I was, and she stayed on the phone with me. At one point the banging stopped and everything was quiet for a while. I talked with the dispatcher and suddenly looked down to see that this guy had slipped his fingers through the 1-inch gap between my door and the floor and was just kind of waggling them around, making this weird growling sound. I screamed and backed away, which is my biggest regret about this situation, since when I look back it would have been so awesome to just stomp the fuck out of those fingers and hear the guy howl in pain. When the cops rolled up, I heard running and the sound of our sliding glass door opening and closing, and then he was gone. The cops never caught him. He had broken in through our side door by jimmying the lock somehow. My door was covered in what turned out to be huge cages he'd made using a pair of scissors, which he discarded on the ground before he left. What terrifies me most about this was that I walked right past him. I looked him right in the face. I realize now that he was not trying to sleep or on drugs, but was lying so stiff like that because he was hiding. He probably heard me open the door, and freaked out because he hadn't realized there was another girl living there, and tried to blend into the couch in the darkness.
Alright X, here's my spooky story for the day. I recently moved right into the middle of the Mojave Desert in California. I naturally got into dirt bikes. There are miles and miles of trails out here, and we're like 30 miles away from any kind of city. There's a track where I live that's deserted most of the time, but I don't really frequent that. I prefer trail riding. So out where I ride there's a lot of flat land, and 3 big hills about a mile away from each other. Every time I ride I go a little further. I eventually made it to the 3rd big hill. It was amazing, perfectly quiet, just the sound of the wind that never stops blowing around here. I hopped back on my bike to go a little further and I was overcome with this gut-wrenching terror that came out of nowhere. It felt like I was being watched, I guess. But I couldn't see shit, it's all mostly scrub brush and big rock outcroppings. So I shit my pants, and got back home as fast as I fucking could. That was about 2 months ago. Today I went out for my weekly ride, and I figured I would go back to the 3rd hill. I decided that I was being irrational the last time I went there. The isolation must have gotten to me. Plus I've been riding a lot longer now, so there's no reason to be frightened. I go out and get to the 1st hill, stop and relax for a bit, smoke a cig and listen to the silence. I then got back on the trail and toot on up to the 3rd hill. I wasn't even thinking about the last time I was there. Everything was great, so I go even further. Past the third hill is just a lot more wavy smaller hills, and a lot more giant rock things. I know people go out here sometimes because there were other tire tracks, but I spotted what looked like a cave entrance. Even if it wasn't a cave, someone could definitely fit under the rock. At the entrance of this opening there was a pile of rocks about the size of a hand, all stacked up pyramid style. I took note of that and kept going, but as I passed this fucking thing I hear like a goddamned guttural croak/scream. It sounded like a raven but higher pitched and loud as shit. I know the sounds my bike makes, and it wasn't that. I rode so fast that I probably would have died if I crashed, got lost as shit in those hills, but eventually made it back. I didn't stop feeling that being watched sensation until I got back between the first and second hill, then it just went away. Got back home safely, probably never going back that way again. There are stories in my area about blue eyes, some kind of creature that supposedly lives around here. Not sure if it has any merit, but holy shit, sure felt like it. That's all. I have no fucking idea what could be out there, if anything. I need a riding buddy, frowny face.
The Wanderer on the Tracks. On Halloween of 1988, 6 teenage boys ventured into a tunnel on a local railroad. Only one escaped with his life and a photo. What resulted from that innocent venture was a 2-year period of unexplained murders which killed off a good 10% of my small town's population. To this day, no one knows the true fate of the 5 boys and the reason behind the murders that lasted until the fall of 1990, except for me. I'm the lone survivor of the 6 who encountered the Wanderer on the Tracks on that dark Halloween of 1988. It was supposed to be a simple dare, nothing to it. Everyone had heard of how, every Halloween, people head into the tunnel and never come out. We all thought it was bullshit. Then again, we were only 14, and not very well learned in the way of the paranormal. All we expected was just some crazy dude in a bedsheet. However, what we found was much worse. And what we did made the outcome 10 times worse than it could have been. I guess that, curiosity killed the cat, really fits when remembering this story. It was me, Steve, John, Andy, George, Bill, and Fred. Explaining our choice of costume is irrelevant. However, let us note that we all brought flashlights and Andy had brought a bucket to collect candy in. Foolish Andy. I remember your death so vividly it haunts my dreams to this very day, and she does, too. But not for long. We all had dinner at John's house, as it was closest to the tunnel. After that we played some Super Mario Brothers on his NES to pass time until it was dark. When it was, we all departed to complete the dare we so foolishly accepted. I carried a Polaroid to show everyone what was really in the tunnel. We left when it was considerably dark outside. Most of the dads were parading their 7-year-olds up and down the street getting candy before it got really dark. There had recently been some kidnappings in the area, but we didn't expect to meet the suspect, so we thought we would be safe. With each step towards the tunnel it seemed as if it got darker, and when we arrived there, it was pitch black, and it was pretty much only us and the older trick-or-treaters outside. We all stopped at the entrance of the tunnel for a moment, realizing that we may not make it out alive. After waiting one more moment, we hesitantly stepped inside, turning on all of our flashlights. No one really wanted to do this. We felt this more and more as we went deeper into the tunnel. It was weird though, usually a tunnel ended around 500 feet, but it seemed like this one went on for miles. We went on for what I want to say was another 3,000 feet. That's when we saw it. At the time, we had no idea what it was. If I had a choice, I would wish that I never found out what it was and what it did. "The fuck is that?" Bill asked, half whispering to the rest of us. What we saw looked like a girl that had covered herself in dark paint or makeup and had on a plain old nightgown. She was holding what looked like a rod, or staff. Her back was facing us. "Beats me," Andy shrugged. "Hey." He yelled at the thing before throwing the bucket at it. It clanged off of the creature and rolled to the right of the track. Suddenly, it made the most gruesome noise in the world as its head rotated 180 degrees to stare back at us. I hastily took out my Polaroid and shot a picture of it. I put away the camera and shook the developing picture before putting it inside my pocket. Everyone was frozen in place looking at the creature, seemingly paralyzed. Soon, the creature lifted the rod and threw it at Andy. It was horrifying and amazing, seeing it throw what we now knew was a spear with such dexterity, as well as doing it backwards. The spear struck Andy in the chest, dead center in the sternum. His ribcage collapsed and blood sprayed from the entry and the exit. His spine snapped, and he crumpled to the ground. The blood-splattered spear was stuck in the ground a good 40 feet behind us. It was only a moment before we actually thought to run. We didn't even try to save Andy. I turned my head and saw the creature ripping open his chest, tearing muscle and organs apart as our dying counterpart screamed in his death throes. It seemed like the creature wanted to separate flesh from bone, as that is exactly what it had done. Andy's flesh and innards were scattered around his skeleton in a pool of his blood. It was coming for the rest of us now. Bill was the next one it caught, eviscerating him in the same manner as it did to Andy. Then she got George, and then Fred. It was me and John left. The creature was so close we could feel its putrid breath on our necks. We both heard its demonic growls and screeches as we just barely escaped its furious grabs for our costumes. We kept on running even though the lactic acid had built up so much in our arms and legs, and our breath was ragged, and we were so damn tired. Soon, we saw the end of the tunnel. Somehow, it was morning, which was so illogical, but John and I were both happy to see the light of day. Suddenly, I heard a trip and stumble. John had fucking tripped. We were outside of the tunnel, and he tripped. I didn't even need to turn my head to know he would be gored and gutted. I ran a safe distance away behind some trees near my house. His screams echoed through the neighborhood and awoke several families, wandering outside to see what was happening. Everyone who went outside all saw the creature as it tore apart John. When it was done, it swept its eyes across the shocked citizens of my small town and let out a deafening roar that no man or animal could create. It then dashed back inside the tunnel, and everyone ran inside their homes, including me. For 2 years after that, the people who saw the creature were found disemboweled and skinned in their homes. Some people tried to move, but I heard them say it was like they were chained here. The creature was holding everyone here, keeping everyone who had seen it captive in this town. I'm the last surviving person who saw the Wanderer on the tracks, and my time is coming soon. How did I last this long? I don't know. I bet it's teasing me, torturing me, making me shit my pants every time I turn a corner. It's taken a hold of my life and I can no longer function like other people. I can no longer go out in the dark. My windows are always closed, the blinds always down, the doors always locked. I've tried to kill myself multiple times, but I can't. It won't let me. Recently, I've been hearing the dying screams of my dying friends. I've heard a bucket clanging from outside my window. Tapping on my front door at night. It's a sign. It's coming for me soon. And then it's coming for you.
Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Toole, because they told the truth. Just 3 days short of Henry's scheduled exit from this world, Lucas became the first, and to date only, recipient of Governor Bush's compassionate conservatism. The official rationale for this act of mercy was, apparently, that the evidence on which Lucas was sentenced did not support his conviction. There was a possibility that Henry was in fact innocent of the crime for which he was convicted. Never mind that many of the 130 death row inmates who did not get special gubernatorial attention prior to their executions had credible claims of innocence that were met with by nothing but scorn and mockery. Lucas claimed that he was trained by a nationwide satanic cult in a mobile paramilitary training camp in the Florida Everglades. Henry further claimed the leaders of the camp were so impressed with his handling of a knife that he was allowed to serve as an instructor. Following his training, Henry claimed that he served the cult in various ways, including as a contract killer and as an abductor of children, whom he delivered to a ranch in Mexico near Juarez. Once there, they were used in the production of child pornography and for ritual sacrifices. Link to lucaswhale.to interview. Lucas partner Otis Toole confirmed much of Lucas' claims in an interview with Billy Bob Barton of Boiled Angel. Link to Toole's interview on whale.to. I know that Sandra London was able to confirm parts of Lucas' story as well. An associate of Lucas provided authorities with a map he had drawn her marking cult ranches south of the border. One of them was later identified by authorities as the base of operations for the Matamoros cult. No one wants to believe the cult story. The TV people cut it out. The writers don't write about it. Lucas, Programmed to Kill, page 88. Most serial killers are actually an artificial construct of government and law enforcement bodies. The purposes are: 1. Create and maintain a climate of fear. 2. Provide cover for the violent activities of cults seeded/supported by U.S. intelligence agencies. These cults are seeded to provide farms of conditioned assassins, prostitutes, and various types of facilitators. They also provide a cover for drug, arms, and human traffic, and the production of child pornography. They also institute and encourage violent, antisocial activities pursuant to number 1. 3. Provide cover for contract hits relating to ongoing drug, arms, and human traffic.
B21. Be living in middle of nowhere, Virginia. Bored, decide to visit of. Literally lives down the road, so I bike. Saving gas.jpg. Arrive, kiss and figure out something to do. Decide to bike around, sure, why not? She grabs her bike and we take off. Aimlessly riding around, kind of fun actually. Love that October breeze in my face. Sun is kissing the horizon, very pretty. We end up off-road a bit, onto more of a faded trail. Fuck yeah, exploring. 15 minutes or so pass and enter farmland. See bunch of crops, not sure, maybe beans. As well as abandoned looking house. She's sweaty, wearing white tee. Kind of horny now. Ditch bikes behind some trees and start making out. Grope boobs, grab dick exchange. Getting really hard. Decide this needs to happen. But don't want bugs and shit on our asses. She suggests to check out that house for an empty room. Was skeptical, of course. Penis made the decision. Started walking towards the house. Halfway there, see a large dog. Perhaps some kind of hunting dog, really nice. We pet it, very playful, has no collar, so I assume he's a stray. Follows us closer to the house. Toss a stick, sorry dog, I'm trying to get mine wet. Dog chases stick. Approach the front of the house. Broken glass peppers the sidewalk, from broken windows I assume. Realize it had to be broken from the inside, didn't think too much of it though. Door easily accessed, we tread slowly. Get an uneasy feeling, didn't say anything. Afraid she wouldn't be into it anymore if I puss out. House was really ancient, dust and cobweb everywhere. Make way into a guest room. Start making out on old bed. The house's ambience is kind of turning me on. Start caressing her thighs, getting her wet early. Oh crap, she says. Tells me she has to go take her tampon out. Wanders aimlessly into the hallway to locate a restroom. LOL, women are gross. Gif. Few minutes pass, still no sign of her. Just chilling in the creepy old room. Getting kind of dark now, no lighting in the house. Almost impossible to see my hands in front of me. I hear footsteps. About me, woman. Impatient, I grab her towards me and proceed where we left off. No foreplay today, I can smell her period from here. Pull her shorts down and just go balls deep. Just keeps repeating in the same tone, oh crap. You like that, don't you? Finish after 15 minutes. Kind of want to head out now, house lost its aphrodisiac. She wanders off into the hallway again, probably brought a spare tampon. Yell, meet you outside. Make my way outside, see the dog. Hey there, puppy. Start petting it, killing time until she's ready. A few minutes pass. Sun has almost set, hurry up, woman. Dog begins barking viciously. Get kind of scared, don't know if it has rabies. GF approaches, dog goes fucking ballistic. Tell her we need to go. She was unresponsive, just standing there with her shorts around her ankles. Did you hear me, woman? This dog is going apeshare. Blood running down the side of her leg. U.jpg. Toss sticks across the fields to get him away from us. No luck, he's dead set on her. Told her to go back and clean herself up. Try to get the dog away from the house so she can escape. Begin walking towards the bikes. I encourage dog to follow me with gestures. Come here, boy, who's a good boy. Eventually dismisses my of and follows me. Make my way to my bike. Notice GF's bike was missing. There's no way, she's not that fast, I didn't even see her. Dismiss it and pick up my bike. Not a moment sooner, she comes up from the trail. How did you get to the bike so fast?
Forest ranger for a large amount of dense wooded forest just north of the US border. 1,200. Just signed on to shit. Get a call on the radio for a 1049, missing person, in my area, last seen wearing a sweatshirt, hiking shorts, and a red backpack. Missing for 2 days now, and was just reported. Mount up, fuel up, and head out into the area he was last known to be in. Cruising for about an hour and a half, decide it would be a good idea to start out on foot, as he won't be on any scenic roads. Notify dispatch to send an additional unit. Wait for a half hour until backup arrives. He's a good guy I enjoy working with. We head up onto a trail that's known for people getting lost, as halfway up it splits and goes further into the woods instead of curving around and heading back out towards the service area. Hiking for an hour, calling out the person's name, keeping an eye out for clues, etc. Wind around a bend and find the remnants of a campsite. Shout out for my partner and the missing gentleman. Partner doesn't come around the comer. GIF. Go back around the comer, partner isn't there. Come up on the radio. Anon. Anon, come in. Officer Anon, are you code 47? Nothing. Well fuck. Inspect the campsite, it's fairly recent, about a week, but no new footprints or indents in the mud surrounding the fire pit, except animals. Decide to wait for partner, he may have gotten lost. Try the radio again, Officer Anonymous, this is Anonymous, come in. Are you code 4? Looking around in the trees, listening for any sounds out of the ordinary. Wait for 45 minutes for partner, while walking in a little circle around the campsite. Partner doesn't show up, now I'm a little worried. Go back around the bend in the trail, past the little rock outcropping. Head back the way we came and am looking for any sign of him. As I come up onto a hill, I hear footsteps up ahead of me, boots on the rocky path. Come up on the radio again, Officer Anon, are you code 417? Still nothing on the radio. Dart up ahead to get a good look at whoever is on the trail. Spot a red backpack on the guy. He seems to be walking a little funny, no swing of his arms. Walking almost like a robot. Excuse me, sir. What's your name? I'm 20 feet behind him by this point. Sir? He's still walking like a robot. Hey? He stops, and turns around lighting fast. Are you Herpson McDerpson? He just stares at me. Are you Herpson McDerp, sir? He still doesn't speak, but nods his head. We've been looking for you, let's head back to the trailhead. After about 40 minutes we reach the trailhead, and my partner's vehicles are still there. Now, I'm going to put you in the back of my truck, you're not under arrest, just so you can relax and catch your breath. Try the radio again, Anon, are you out there? Anon. The radio crackles to life, this is Officer Anon, yeah, I'm okay. Found the missing person. He's got a broken leg after falling off a small cliff. I've patched him up and we're on our way back to the trailhead. Sorry for not responding, as out of range. Got separated at one of the trail forks. Wada. Anon, I've got the missing hiker, he's in the back of my truck right now. Silence for 2 minutes. Anon, lock your truck and grab the 12 gauge from my Jeep. Why? Just do it, and don't let it out of your sight. Okay, AV. Unlock his Jeep, grab the 12 gauge and inspect it to see if there's a round in the chamber. Calmly walk over to my truck and peek in the window. Nobody in my truck, and the cage was bent to a severe angle, with my driver's side door open. Oh shit. GIF. Swing around the other side of my truck, and peer into the cab. Nothing. Close the door, and climb into the bed, sitting on the roof for the hour and a half of pants shitting terror until my partner got back with the injured hiker. He looks at me. You let it get away? What do you mean by Anon? I'll tell you later. Never did tell me after we got back to the station. Don't know if it's a Skinwalker changeling or what, but it was definitely nope GIF worthy. I'm back. Talked to my partner today as we were both on the same service road and assigned to the same area. I asked him about that odd incident a month ago. Pulled up next to his Jeep as he's filling out paperwork. Hey Anon. How's the shit so far? A couple idiot kids decided to drink out here, some people having sex, nothing too serious. So, about that incident we had a month ago. I've been trying to figure it out, and it just keeps confusing me. You never exactly told me what it was. Or why you had me lock my truck and grab a shotgun. He clicks his pen, putting it back in his pocket and closes his citation book. Well, it's not something that you need to know about. It would be in your best interests to keep your nose clean of it from now on. Come on, don't scare me with that G-man, secret agent, bullshit. Just explain what you thought it was. He looks at me from just below the brim of his ball cap. Something that's lived here long before I ever took this job. I used to live in this area and at night I would always hear my neighbors' voices calling my name, or the family dog barking when the dog was on my bed. Now I'm interested. Dispatch interrupts us with a call about kids shooting animals. Then another call about someone breaking their leg, then patrolling campgrounds and hiking trails. So that's all I got from him today as we weren't near each other for much of the day. But I'll keep pestering him /x/. No, I'm not a forest ranger. I'm Smokey the Bear that just went north for the summer, to ensure Canadians don't light forest fires when putting out their joints.
A little background to start. I work as a topographer/tracker for a local group in Colorado and Wyoming. My job consists of surveying areas and mapping out common game trails and popular places for herds to gather for hunting and ecological purposes. When I'm out, I'm mostly on an ATV until I find a game trail, which then I map out on foot. When I'm going long distances, I stop at outposts that have been set up along the trail to refuel and rest for the night, or go to in case of hazardous weather. I've seen some things that have made me question what's out there, such as mutilated deer, bull elks torn in half, holes dug through the fresh body of animals from the inside out. While seeing things like this is unsettling, I usually shrug them off as some kind of nasty parasite or bear attack. The thing that made me wonder whether or not I was up against something much bigger didn't happen till recently while near the Wyoming-Colorado border in between outposts in the first week of December. To start, it was snowing fairly lightly, kinda spitting really. The pines stopped most of the snow falling on me while I was walking back to my ATV. While it was snowing lightly, the layer on the ground was at least a foot deep off trail, making it pretty difficult to move or be quiet while lumbering through it. I got on the ATV and drove about a half-mile up the trail, almost crossing over into Wyoming, when I noticed another trail that looked freshly made. When I got off the ATV I noticed some small droplets of blood in the snow going down the trail, with what looked like bear prints with something dragging behind it. I grabbed my gun off the rack on the ATV and slung it over my shoulder. The trail looked fresh, but the prints and blood were starting to get covered in a layer of snowfall. While walking along the trail, I noticed something kind of weird in the middle of the bear tracks. It looked like a human foot almost, but rather elongated and thin, with only 4 toes on the end. The tracks twisted within the bear prints themselves, almost like the animal's foot spun a bit coming out of the bear track. I continued on while occasionally glancing into the track, and sure enough the prints were still there. When I go to the end in a large clearing, I stopped following the bear tracks. Something about being in this large clearing with an unknown animal was making me uneasy. I mapped it out and placed a red line over it, indicating a high predatory area. On the way back, I noticed something strange about my own boot prints. Now, I'm a pretty big guy, standing at 6 feet 2 with a size 13 boot, but whatever had made the tracks had a footprint significantly larger than my own. But that's not the worst part. Whatever it was, had followed my boot prints back, heading in the same direction I was. Whatever it was, it had snuck behind me and was heading towards my ATV. Shoulder my rifle and put a round in the chamber. I walked back, glancing down every so often to see if the twisted footprints were indeed still in mine. When I got back to my ATV, I noticed that the prints circled my vehicle and stopped behind it and shuffled a bit. I then noticed that my jerrycan was missing, and that thing had left a trail of gasoline down the road from where I came. I hopped on my quad to get going in the opposite direction, hoping to distance myself from whatever stole my fuel. After crossing over into Wyoming, I noticed that everything was rather still. It was still snowing, but the flakes almost seemed to be suspended in the air. Not falling, but not static either. I couldn't hear anything when my ATV was shut off, no animals, no snowfall, not even my own breathing. Almost like something had stopped all sound from existing. I found another game trail, this time a few hundred yards off the trail. Dismounted and walked towards the opening in the trees, with pristine snow covering the rocky terrain around me. All along the trail, I would catch fleeting glimpses of a shadow. Not shadows, no. Just one. Moving along the trail with me. I put it off to lack of sleep making me see things. On my way back, I got a chill up my spine. In my own boot prints were the same tracks I saw at the last trail. The same twisty human-like print, but this time, something was touching the ground in front of them. A swipe here and there, almost like whatever it was tracking me by my scent. I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. I reached for my sidearm, kicking myself for leaving the rifle on the ATV. I heard a ragged breath from my left. Like if you collapsed a lung on a deer. I drew and fired into the trees, striking an aspen and blowing a hole in its small frame. I saw nothing. No movement, no snowfall, no animal. I started getting the same feeling I was getting from the clearing, and ran back to my quad. Whatever had been following me, beat me there. I followed the tracks around my ATV like last time, and stopped to see what it took next. It took my rifle. My rifle. A large rifle that would require something very large to carry it off in its mouth, or something with hands and the strength to carry it. I looked a little closer at the prints, and found something I had missed every time. Inside the footprints, right where the twist ended, I noticed 4 very long appendages peeking through the twisted snow. It looked like a monkey foot, but longer and more hand-like, but not quiet enough to be human. Mounted and hit the throttle, spinning out a bit until I got traction, and went shooting down the road. I was too low on fuel to go back to a main road where I could get help, and was forced to go to my next outpost. When I arrived, the small cabin/hut-like structure looked so comforting and protective I almost cried. It had fuel for the quad, a safe place for me to sleep, and a radio for help. The sun was setting, and I was firing up the stove after starting the generator when my radio crackled and came to life. I jumped when I heard the static hiss. I ran over to the radio and requested an evac or an extra team for a safe escort. When asked why, I lied and said I was being hunted by a bear and lost my rifle on the trail. The voice on the other end scoffed, "BTU obliged. My team would be there by morning." When I hung up the radio and started to get comfy and safe, I heard a loud thump hit my door. Froze in my bed, not knowing what to do. I finally got up after debating whether or not just hide. I'm no coward, I thought. I grabbed my sidearm and walked towards the door. I peeked out the small window to see if someone or something was out there. All I saw was darkness. Stupidly, I opened the door and shouted, "If you don't leave, I'm going to kill you. You took one of my guns, but I still have the other." No response. I looked at my door to see what hit it, and only saw the remnants of a snowball. A fucking snowball. I waited to see if I could see any movement, when another snowball came flying out of the darkness to my left and hit my shoulder. "You better run, or I'm going to fucking kill you," I yelled, as I slammed the door shut and ran out to confront whatever threw the snowball. I ran towards where the ball came from, watching for prints or signs of movement. I saw something in the darkness that looked like a man had fallen, and was scrambling on the ground to get up, making that raspy breathing noise. I stopped and aimed, but saw that whatever was in front of me had continued to run on all fours at an alarming speed. Faster than I could run. Froze when I saw the black silhouette dart off into the darkness, not sure what to do. After listening and hearing nothing, no breathing, no running, I headed back to my hut. Once I got to the clearing my hut was in, I stopped. Relieved I had made it out of the woods alive. I took a deep breath and calmed myself down, and started walking towards my cabin, illuminated by the lone porch light on the deck. I looked down, trying to follow my tracks back to conserve energy, and nearly vomited. The twisted footprints were in my tracks, heading towards the cabin. I saw the trail heading back towards my cabin, each twisted footprint slamming down into my own until it got to my porch. Amidst all the snow dragged on by the thing, was my rifle and jerry can, placed neatly on the porch, leaning against the wall. The door was ask and jarred open a bit. I could have sworn I saw the leg of the thing dart in as soon as I looked at it. I wish I could say I bursted in there and shot the thing dead, but I was too frozen with fear to do anything but stand there. I wish I could say I was brave and fought the good fight, but I didn't. I crumpled onto the ground, craning my knees until sun up. I had spent 6 hours in the darkness, waiting for whatever that thing was to come out and finish me. But it never happened. My crew found me covered in snow with my gun drawn and pointed at my cabin. They questioned me and searched the cabin. All of my food was eaten, my bed was torn up and made into a makeshift nest thing like a dog would sleep in, and the radio was destroyed, but no sign of whatever was haunting me.